The National Security Council has decided today that all economic sectors that have been allowed to operate during the MCO may now run at full workforce capacity and without limits on operating hours beginning tomorrow. These include essential services as well as aerospace, automotive after-sales services, and construction. However, the companies must adhere to the standard operating procedure that has been established or risk having their operating permit revoked and being slapped with legal action. According to MITI Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali, this was decided after a review of the studies and recommendations by MITI, the Finance Ministry, Bank Negara and Khazanah Nasional. He added that the initiative will enable supply chains for products and services to recover and fulfill both domestic and international demand to the benefit of companies, especially the SMEs. New COVID-19 cases in Malaysia fell to pre-MCO levels today. Health DG Datuk Dr. Nohisham Abdullah says the country recorded 31 new patients, the lowest since March 12 when 20 new cases were reported. That was 6 days before the movement restrictions took effect. This is the 12th straight day of double-digit infections. Today's figure brings the total number of cases in the country to 5,851 since the pandemic began in early January. Meanwhile, the number of daily recoveries continues to surpass the number of new cases with 75 cured. That means 4,032 or 68.9% of patients have been discharged. That leaves 1,719 active cases, 36 of whom are being treated in the intensive care unit, with 17 needing ventilators. One more death was reported, bringing total fatalities to 100. This translates into a 1.7% mortality rate. The Securities Commission Malaysia and Bursa Malaysia have extended the temporary suspension of short selling from April 30th to June 30th. The short-term suspension was introduced as part of proactive measures to alleviate potential risk arising from heightened volatility and global uncertainties caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In a joint statement, the SC and Bursa said the extension will allow market management measures to remain in place as well as mitigate any excessive speculative activity in the marketplace. Moreover, it is to provide stability and confidence in the Malaysian capital market. Both regulators added that they will continue monitoring developments affecting the securities market and assess the adequacy of existing measures to support an orderly market and mitigate potential risk. The Transport Ministry has appointed MCA Secretary General Datuk Chong Sin Woon as the new chairman of port regulator Port Klang Authority. Chong replaces Ian Yong Hian Wah and will serve PKA for 2 years, starting April 18 this year to April 17, 2022. Yong is formerly a member of the Selangor Executive Council and a 3-term DAP Assemblyman for Sri Kembangan. Chong's appointment appears to point towards a return to the BN administration's practice of reserving the PKA chairmanship mostly for senior MCA politicians. Yong's predecessor was former Transport Minister and MCA politician Tan Sri Kong Choh Ha, who stepped down in July 2018. Separately, MOT has appointed Datuk Koh Chin Han, an MCA Central Committee member and chairman of MCA's Jasin Division, as chairman of the Malacca Port Authority. Koch's appointment will also be in effect for 2 years, starting April 18. AirAsia X saw its passenger load factor for the first quarter of 2020 decline by 9 percentage points year-on-year to 74%. The long-haul budget airline carried 1.14 million passengers, 25% less than the 1.51 million it carried a year earlier. It added that available seats per kilometre capacity was down by 21% year-on-year from 8.71 billion to 6.87 billion, while revenue passenger kilometres fell 28% to 5.18 billion from 7.21 billion. The group explained in a statement that it had been badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has impacted travel demand globally, in turn forcing airlines to reduce flight frequencies and temporarily suspend certain routes. Particularly for AAX's Malaysian operations, flights to China were limited during the onset of the coronavirus in February as travel restrictions tightened and demand softened. Outside of Malaysia, AirAsia X said its Thai operations saw passenger load factor shrink by 13 percentage points to 77%, while ASK capacity dropped 22% year-on-year to 2.65 billion, with 474,150 passengers carried.